Yes, my people, welcome back to another episode of Where's My Podcast. Today, we're joined by another special guest. We're joined by Tadii G, the founder of SvoSva. Yeah! Tadii, thank you so much for coming.
I'm happy to be here.
I can tell. So, obviously, as I was telling you off camera, the way we start the episode is I basically just say why you, the guest, are in the chair.
Okay.
Might make your head swell a bit. But I think I first came across you and your brand via your YouTube channel rather than like seeing your brand on like Instagram or something like that. And I think it's because when we were first like conceptualizing the channel and, you know, thinking about what direction we want to go down, I was trying to see what was out there in terms of what is to offer, what YouTube has to offer for like up and coming designers and stuff. Okay. And I saw loads of American content, but I stumbled across yours. So obviously I clicked, obviously from seeing, I'm not going to know where you come from, innit? Then I clicked yours. I heard a British accent. I was like,
yes, finally.
I wanted to see, finally. So that was the first reason, the fact that you was on YouTube. And of course, seeing the type of content you were putting out was another reason, because I feel like you had a nice mixture of more almost like complex topics, but also like entry point topics. So for example, like simple questions like, oh, how to screen print or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or just how to start your brand in general, what makes a good brand. But then you also had things that are more complex that people don't really talk about as much from a fashion perspective, like, oh, how to get funding for your brand or something like that. So as I'm watching you and I'm watching your channel develop, I'm like, every single video you drop, there's more reasons why I want to have a conversation with you, because you have that, I don't know, that breadth of knowledge and you're sharing that. Also, the brand looks amazing.
Thank you.
It looks amazing. That juxtaposition collection is fantastic. Do you know what my favourite piece is?
Ooh.
Try and guess. I bet you're going to guess first time.
Most people like the t-shirt, so the Naya t-shirt. But I feel like you'd probably say the two-piece set.
The silk thing?
Yeah.
How did you know?
I don't know. I feel like...
Yeah, it will suit me, innit?
Yeah. You're a two-piece man.
You're right. No, you're right. I can't lie. I see it on like, I think it was Clean Banding. Yeah, so I seen it. I'm like, yo, this girl is talented. I like what the brand stands for and whatnot. But yeah, I just felt like because you have such an understanding of fashion and you're also so transparent from having a YouTube channel, I just thought of all the guests, this is the most perfect guest we could have asked for. Somebody that is openly sharing their experience within fashion and documenting it in real time. So big up you on that, Tadii.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for coming.
No worries.
Cool. So we'll go straight back to the beginning. I want to know more about your background, where you come from. So just, you can start your story wherever you want to start it.
Oh gosh, I was about to say, like, how far do you want me to come back?
It's up to you.
Okay, I usually start with like uni, actually.
I wanted to go back further.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's go back to primary school.
Yeah.
I grew up here in the UK. I was born in Zimbabwe, but I moved quite young, so I grew up here. I've always grown up like around the Kent area. Never really lived in London.
Don't worry, you're not missing out.
Yeah, I don't think I ever want to live in London, to be honest. I feel like I'm close enough to London to like experience London without being in London.
Yeah, it's only one train. That's not even.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And actually, when I was younger, I remember I actually drew a collection.
A whole collection?
Yeah. On like these little like people that were like shaped like boxes. And I cut them out and I stuck them on like cardboard boxes and I stored them in a box. And my mum was like, Tadii, you should keep that. I didn't keep it.
Why didn't you keep it?
I don't know. I was just doing it for fun. So when people ask me like, oh, okay, have you always enjoyed fashion or been into fashion? I'm usually like, no, until one day I was reminded that, no, Tadii, back in the day you used to draw like fashion and you drew a collection. So I guess it was kind of sort of always in me somewhere. But that to the side, I actually wanted to be a doctor.
Yes.
A paediatrician.
That's a good... Oh, you wanted to be a child doctor?
Yeah.
Passionate about children?
Yeah. So when I went to sixth form, I studied maths, psychology, biology and chemistry.
Smart girl.
I dropped chemistry like within a month. It was so hard. It was so tough. So I stuck with maths. I love maths. Like, it's still my favourite subject. And then from that, I went to actually study mechanical engineering.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. Where did you study, by the way?
Coventry.
In Cove? I went to work.
Yeah.
No way.
How did a lot of you guys used to come down and party with us.
Empire.
Empire.
That was on Main for Gosford.
Empire.
The big
that was
one.
new.
Oh, that was new.
Yeah.
Okay.
That means we're very different in age then. Maybe.
Not very different.
Are you sure?
I'm 26.
Yeah, we are different in ish.
Yeah.
Different-ish. I feel like you would have been starting uni when I was
finishing.
leaving, finishing.
Yeah.
So that was Empire was I think in my last year.
Okay.
Because before it was called Hush.
Oh damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what? Do you know what I find interesting about how you started?
Yeah.
You spoke about having the passion for fashion without even really knowing, or fashion kind of being in you from a young age.
Yeah.
And then you was like, yeah, I parked that to the side. Why was that parked to the side?
I don't think it was like consciously parked to the side. It was just one of the things that I just did back then. And then I was more passionate about like kids. Because I actually wanted to start a daycare centre initially.
Wow, like that was your long-term vision.
Yeah. And then I thought, oh, okay, let me be a paediatrician. And I was not smart enough to do that because I really didn't enjoy chemistry. And then I thought, okay, what's something practical that I can do with maths? Instead of like studying maths and be like a maths teacher, which is not really what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, engineering. I was quite good at the physics modules. And so I thought, let's get into that. And I was quite good at mechanical engineering. I was one of like 9 girls on the whole course.
Damn.
There was like 260.
Just 9 girls?
Just 9 girls, yeah. And I still used to like dress up nicely. Fashion was still a part of my life. I would dress up nicely, go to my lectures, sit down and, you know, be just surrounded by guys. Really smart guys as well. Yeah, that was my uni experience.
And when did because obviously we've spoken about fashion throughout the conversation already, and you said it was more, when you parked off, it was more like subconscious rather than conscious.
Yeah.
So when was like that switch?
So I finished uni and I kind of knew that, okay, let's go back a little bit. So I feel like my journey is so like up and down.
Yeah.
So in 6th form, I think I was in year 13 and they were going around asking us like, okay, so what do you want to do with your life, basically? Maybe year 12. I feel like year 13 would have been a bit too late to ask. So they were like, what would you like to do with your life? And I overheard this guy. He was just like, to be honest, university's a plan B. I want to make money before I go to university, or make money a different kind of way. Like, I don't want to work for anyone. And that, overhearing that conversation, I was just like, wow. I never thought like you can actually take that path. Like, entrepreneurship was not in my mind like back then. It was after hearing him say that, and I was like, okay, there's another way to do things. Like, because obviously my parents are Zimbabwean, and you go to school, you get a job, that's how it is. So hearing him say that, like, I was like, okay, there's another way. So I feel like I took that on in my brain and like kind of left it there.
Okay.
And then I went to uni. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to fulfill my plan B first.
Okay.
Finish uni and then see what's going to happen.
But at that point, did you not know that entrepreneurship, so the plan A, did you not know that it would be fashion?
No, I had no idea what it was going to be.
Okay.
None whatsoever. I just knew somehow I would like to be my own boss. So then I was just like, okay, I want to be my own boss. And then I finished uni, kind of knew that I didn't really want to do engineering. Like, I loved studying it, but the practical side of it wasn't really for me. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I was kind of just like, not really sure. Like, I don't know. I feel like when you finish uni, unless you've like done like a placement or something, I didn't do a placement, you kind of know like where you're going to go. But sometimes you could be like me, you don't have no idea what you're going to do.
Been there too.
And then it was actually my brother. So me and my brother actually do the brand together.
Sick.
So he was going out somewhere and he was like, he's big into fashion. Okay. My brother is like naturally. My mum was always like to him, you should be a stylist. Like he loves fashion. He likes getting dressed.
Do you know what? Sorry, let me cut you there, Tadii. So from a young age, your mum would say things like that to your brother?
To my brother, yeah.
So how come it's not you?
Because I was like smart.
Oh, you was really academic?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
My mum's always been like one of those people that like doesn't just look at education, I guess. But like for me, because I was always like, okay, I'm gonna be this. It's like, okay, so we'll push you to be that. Do you know what I mean?
Obviously, as a parent, you're not gonna think, oh, maybe she should do this. You just
yeah.
support what.
Whereas my brother, he was more like, he was more into things. Like he liked video games. He liked fashion. Whereas me, I liked reading.
You was a bookworm.
I loved the book. I used to write stories. Like I was more on the academic side, which is funny because like my brother actually went to uni and he does what he done at uni. Whereas like I went down the complete different route. So my mum would be like to him like, why don't you get, he was into music as well. He's like, why don't you get into music? Why don't you get into styling? Like she would push that onto him. But then not really me because I never presented that, if you get what I mean.
100%.
So...
yeah, you said your brother was out one day.
Yeah, he wanted to go out and like he's always been somebody that's like looking at trends and stuff without realising that that's what he's sort of doing. Yep. So he was like, Tadii, there's this like new style of clothing that's going to come in. And it was kind of like, you know, the bleached like tops.
Like tie-dye type.
Yeah. So he was like, do you think you'd be able to do that for me? And I was like, I mean, I can try. I'm like one of those people that like can do most things if I put my mind to it. So he comes up with an idea and he'll be like, okay, Tadii, do you think you could do this sort of thing? So when I did it and I posted it on like Snapchat and people were like, oh, that's cool. Like, where did you get that from? And I was like, oh, I made it. And then they were like, oh, can you do me one? And then that's kind of sort of how it started. It fell in my lap.
How did you feel at that point? Because obviously, although, not to say you wasn't aware of your creativity, but as you said, you're very academic. Do you know what I mean? So when people are coming to tell you that you've made something that looks nice, how did you like kind of absorb that information?
I feel like I was just like, oh, really? So then I made another one for somebody else. Somebody else asked. I made one for her. And then I was like, oh, maybe like this is how I become self-employed. This is how I become my own boss. And that's literally how it started. Like I always tell people it fell in my lap because it did. Like I wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm going to do fashion. I just thought I'm going to make this t-shirt for my brother and he's going to go out in it. And that was that. Yeah. So that's how it happened.
So when did it become, because obviously I've had a few conversations like this and people often have stories like that, as you said, where it's like falls in your lap, you're not thinking about it, you're not even necessarily aware of your fashion talents and whatnot. But there comes a point where you're like, this is viable, which is kind of what you said, where you was like, maybe this could be my way of making money, like this could be my living. But then there's another point where you're like, if it is going to be viable, like economically viable, it needs to become a brand rather than just tie-dye t-shirts. Do you get what I'm saying? So when was that transition for you, and like what was your thought process regarding coming up with the brand name and the branding and all of that stuff?
Okay, so I was like, okay, if this is gonna become something, I need to come up with a name. I can't just be like selling these things over like social
Snapchat.
media. So we went through so many different names, and it's so funny how we came across this name that we have now. It's my dad's middle name.
Oh.
Yeah, so we were like sat in the living room, me and my brother and my mum, and I glanced down at some letters on the table, and then there it was. It sounds so like cheesy, but that's literally how it happened. So I was like, okay, that looks quite good, and it looks aesthetically pleasing.
What about it looked aesthetic? Because I agree that it looks aesthetically pleasing, but what about it to you made it look aesthetically pleasing?
I think it's the V.
The two V's and the two S's.
It's the S and the V together.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes it look good. Because what is it like? It's just the A and the O that's different.
Yep.
So it's I feel like that's what it was. But the first thing I needed to know was what it meant, because some names in Shona can mean some interesting things. So I had to ask, like, so I asked my family group chat, like, it's actually pronounced Shosha.
Okay.
Like from a Shona perspective. So it's pronounced Shosha. Like if people refer to my dad sometimes as SvoSva. Where we got SvoSva from is we typed it into notes and then we got Siri to read it out and she pronounces it as SvoSva. So that's how we went with SvoSva, not SvoSva. So I feel like that's a bit more difficult to pronounce.
So it's almost like it's a less accessible name.
Yeah, but then at the same time, that's why I like the name, because like it sparks conversation. Like it's like, oh, so how do you say that sort 100%. Of thing?
And also, what does it mean?
Yeah. Oh, and it means try me and you'll see.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That is mad. Wow.
So we're like, perfect.
When your grandparents were naming your dad, they didn't even know.
They didn't know.
But wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like try me. It's a threat.
Oh, but obviously when you put it in the fashion perspective, it's like, oh, kind of try
me. You'll see. Yeah. So we thought, perfect. Like, that's the name. It looks nice on paper. It means something good-ish. So we went with it.
Okay, so now you got the name.
Uh-huh.
What happens after that? And the reason I asked what happens after that more so is because although your brother was more into fashion, quote unquote, you was always more into the academic side of stuff. So I don't know if you had an understanding of like luxury brands or streetwear brands and how they kind of made their brands. So how did you kind of learn that if you had to? So
that comes in like quite later on.
Okay.
Because I went through so many different like avenues of how I was actually going to do this business. So initially it was going to be like bespoke pieces.
Okay.
Still stuck with the name SvoSva. And then I was like, scratch that. Let's do a boohoo. No, it wasn't even boohoo back then. It was like misguided.
Okay.
For men though. So like so it would have been like the boohoo man of today, but there wasn't boohoo man then. So I was like, okay, misguided for men. And then I was like, scratch that. And then I was like, okay, let's. In fact, I had a mentor.
Okay.
So I went through the Princess Trust program.
Sick.
Which gave me a mentor. So he's the one that then helped me to turn it into a brand because he was like, Tadii, with this name that you have, like, why would you want to just kind of like narrow yourself down to like a fast fashion brand when your brand can be an actual brand? And I was like, okay.
I'm sorry, when was this? Like, what year was this?
2018.
Okay.
So I finished uni 2016, I think. Yeah. I feel like it was winter of 2016 when I made the tie-dye thing for my brother. And then 2017 was just dabbling, like, what we really do in this brand. And then I signed up for the Princess Trust program in 2017, I believe. So I think I completed it in 2018.
Okay.
And that was because my cousins came around one day and we were just talking and we're like, we're thinking of starting this brand. And they were like, oh my gosh, you should go down the Princess Trust route. They give you funding, they give you a mentor. And we're like, okay, I'll look into it. And I was still within the age because it's up to 30, I think. And also,
well within the age.
Yeah, you can't really have like a full-time job or anything like that.
Oh, that's one of the requirements.
Yeah. Because it's meant to, like, their thing is like, we need to feel like you actually want to do this business, and it's not a case of like it's just a hobby on the side. So they wanted to see some sort of like commitment, I guess, I think. So I done that, and then when I got my mentor, then he helped to like sort of
steer you.
Yeah, in the right direction. I'm glad that he did. So then in 2018, that's when I was like, okay, this is gonna be a brand. I think that's when I registered the business, and I understood that, okay, this is gonna be a brand. Like, the name's gonna be on things, and I want it to be like a household brand, recognizable, that sort of thing. But even still, now that I kind of had a bit of a direction, I still didn't really know
what I was doing.
Yeah.
And do you think that kind of came down to, because as I was saying before, let's say you were more interested in fashion, you would have been able to like study the journeys of, I don't know, like a fear of God or example or something like that, and be like, okay, Jerry Lorenzo done X, Y, Z. I can kind of take his formula and kind of make it for our brand.
Yeah.
So would you say that's why you kind of struggled with understanding what the brand was going to be early on?
Yeah, because I had no like background in fashion, like not much interest in fashion. My thing was more like the business side of things.
That's probably because like
So
your
touching
maths.
into yeah. So like putting a business plan together, finding the operational sides of things. That was easy for me. So how I was gonna operate, building the website.
Oh, you did all that yourself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the back end stuff, the things that are important but you don't really see.
Yep.
That's what I was good at. When it came to like actually the clothes, that's the bit that I lacked. So when I talk to people that like, for example, when have got a background in fashion, I'm always like to them like, you're lucky because you have that background, but don't neglect the business side of things because it all ties into each other. So and I guess I was like passionate about the business side of things, I guess. Because I don't know, I guess it's probably like my academics coming into it.
Makes sense, yeah.
But then I don't know when I made that switch where I was like, okay, it's now time to study fashion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when that came about. I think it was more when I had a clearer understanding of how I wanted my brand to look. The message that I wanted people to get when they look at my brand.
Do you know what, Tadii? Sorry, let me cut you there because I think that's a really important point. Because obviously, I watched your video where you spoke about what makes a successful brand, and you mentioned your purpose, knowing your target audience, then obviously like the design, yeah. But I feel like, not to say that's not something that people understand, but I feel like when you're quite early on in your journey, people just think, oh, I just need to make good looking clothes. Doesn't really have to stand for anything and people will buy it. So how did you kind of have that understanding that, you know what, this brand needs to speak for something? Do you know what I mean?
God, it's one of those things that kind of fell in my lap again.
You're a lucky girl, Tadii.
Yeah, I am. So one of my cousins, he's like really into like luxury fashion. So he took an interest in SvoSva and gave us like a couple of ideas of some things that we could make. And he was like a really big fan of the brand. Like I feel like he doesn't even know that I appreciate him for this. So he kind of got involved in like one particular design that we had like back in the day. You'll never see on
You need to show me after.
yeah, I'll show you. And I feel like after that, I looked at him and I was like, I think you're the target audience. So, you know, like in business, you always have to have like a customer avatar.
Yes, so like personas.
Yeah, you literally build that character. And I was like, this is my customer avatar, like in the flesh. Like, this is who I want to target. And I feel like after I got that understanding, that's when I was now able to like begin to shape the brand a little bit more. And
so it's like you worked backwards from there, basically.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I want it to be luxury. I want it to appeal to him, basically. And let's see what I can do with that. And then that's when I started tapping into like looking into luxury brands, watching YouTube channels. There's one YouTube channel that I like called Threducation.
Education's been around for that long?
No, I don't.
So maybe like 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like we're talking forward from 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. My journey's been a long journey.
Yeah.
It has. In between that, I worked at Prada as well.
Oh, sick.
So, I learned like the luxury side of fashion from working there as well.
And what year was this?
This was, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I worked there for like 7 months.
Okay. Short stint.
Yeah, like internship. I have never had a job longer than a year.
Because of all the brand stuff, basically.
Yeah, and just boredom. I don't believe in being somewhere where I don't want to be. And that takes me back to like, I think it's because I'm here. Like I live here. I'm able to do that.
Yeah, it's acknowledging that privilege, so you might take advantage of it.
Exactly. So, yeah. Then I started looking into luxury fashion a bit more. Fell in love with Prada.
Okay.
Love their clothes. I really like LV as well. So one of the Kai set, the 2-piece set that you said you like, that was actually inspired by a piece that I saw from Louis Vuitton, and it was like a pajama set, and it was blue, and I just thought that looks so cool. Like, I want to make something like that.
But you obviously saw it as like more than pajamas. You saw it as somebody can wear this out type thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when I started tapping into like more of the luxury side of things, and I told myself that I don't want my pieces to be plain. Like, sure, we're gonna have like the plain hoodie and the plain tracksuit, which is like a classic piece to have, but I told myself and my brother that that's the only plain piece that we're ever gonna have. The rest of the pieces that we're gonna make are gonna like, there's gonna be thought put into it, sort of thing.
Sorry to cut you, Tadii, but I've got 2 questions. My first question is, what did you learn whilst working at Prada? And my second question is, I like how you're talking about the importance of kind of understanding luxury fashion, yeah? Because speaking from my own perspective, even when coming up with this platform, because I don't know, we kind of wanted to appeal to more like streetwear designers, if you want to call it that. I neglected the fact that there's synergies across streetwear and like luxury. You know what I mean? So because of that, I kind of convinced myself that, I don't even need to worry about this Prada show or this Burberry show or all this stuff. I can just focus on what's going on in the ground, and that will be enough to kind of cater to our audience, if that makes sense. But eventually I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? To have an understanding of how fashion works in general, you need to kind of know the stories of this designer, Alexandra McQueen or Vivienne Westwood and whatnot, because as I said, there's synergies there. So how important do you think it is for people starting brands, whether they want to get to, I don't know, they want to be in the luxury market or they want to be like more maybe fast fashion or streetwear brands? Do you still feel like it's important for them to have that understanding?
Yeah. And I feel like it's based on what kind of background you come from. So like if you've come from a background of fashion, you've gone to fashion school, naturally you're already gonna know that sort of thing. But if you've come from a background where you've decided that you just want to start a clothing brand, I feel like you do need to like take a step back and study those things. And I'll even go further as to studying some of the techniques in fashion. I always say, so I've got like a starter kit that I'm writing.
Sick.
Just to help people that want to start. I kind of always feel like people help once you've started. So like in terms of like the marketing and how to sell, basically. But I found that there's not much out there as to like how to go from, okay, I might want to start a brand to actually starting a brand, which is like where like I try and come in and help with that sort of thing. So within there, I write, I feel like you need to gain a skill, some sort of skill, like in fashion, whether that's knowing how to sew,
knowing how to pattern cut,
yeah, just something, because I feel like it will benefit you in the future. Like say if you don't just want to start like a t-shirt brand where you just print, if you actually want to go into fashion, like you need to have some sort of skill and understanding. I had no understanding of anything. It was my mum that even told me about pattern cutting. Wow. I was like, what is that? I looked into it and I was like, oh, okay. And then I started trying to learn how to do it. And some of the things that I've made, like had as part of my brand, like I've made myself. And it's like I'm able to make custom, like the trouser I'm wearing today. I'm able to make custom pieces for myself. And I always feel like as a fashion person, you always have like those little bits of your collection that's just for you. And yeah, I feel like it's just really important to gain not only like fashion history knowledge, but just like the practical sides of fashion as well. Like get a sewing machine, learn how to sew. When I first got my sewing machine, I couldn't even get the line to be straight. Like I had no idea how to sew, but now I can actually make like full on outfits. And you might not have the time, because I guess when people start businesses, like they're starting it alongside working. But just put a little bit of time to learn. I feel like it's so like powerful to just have that bit of knowledge.
It's so important. You got to sacrifice a couple of things to make that time
Yeah.
And you know what, Tadii, thank you for that answer, because I feel like a lot of the time people do maybe have that understanding, but because of the time and the sacrifice that goes into it, we kind of convince ourselves that we don't necessarily need to know certain things. So it's important to hear people like you who have gone through that journey and made the sacrifices to learn these things, say how important it is. Because I feel like hearing that will make people say, you know what, as much as right now I'm just doing graphics, I never know, in 3 years' time, I may want my brands on runways and stuff, and you may need to know how to make a garment from start to finish. And
it opens up, like, it opens it up for you a bit as well. When it comes to looking for manufacturers, a lot of the ones here in the UK, they're only looking to do like cut, make, trim. So you need to know how to make a pattern. You need to know what kind of fabrics is going to work for whatever piece that you want to make. Because if you go to a factory that's only going to do cut, make, trim, they want you to provide everything else, which is like the pattern, the fabric, the thread. And if you don't have that knowledge, you won't know where to start. Yeah, so that kind of limits the manufacturers you can even go
to. Yeah. Cool. Great answer, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
And sorry, the Prada question.
Yeah.
So what was it like being in Prada, and what did you learn?
So, Prada helped. So the biggest thing that I learned at Prada was when it comes to like styling and like styling celebrities. So I never knew that when it comes to like, sometimes when you see like celebrities wearing like certain brands, they would have been lent those clothes and it comes straight back. Or when they do shoots and stuff, it's like lent to the magazine and it comes like straight back. And I was like, wow.
So you thought everyone was just buying it?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And then like I've taken that knowledge and I've used it now. So like even when I've like styled like celebrities, I'm like, yeah, like it's on a loan, like that's a normal thing. And they're like, yeah, cool. Just send us the return address. Or when I've worked with stylists, they're like, okay, send us the return address. And it's like, it's a normal thing. But I feel like had I not seen that, like at a luxury fashion house, then I might not have known.
So true.
So that's one of the things that I learned. Packaging as well.
The importance of it.
I had never really bought myself like a luxury item, so obviously I didn't know how it comes packaged. So working at Prada, obviously I saw how things are packaged and how well they're packaged as well. So I picked that up. Things like even like the hang tags as well, like the material that they use to make something so like that seems so like meaningless. I don't know, I feel like it adds to it a little bit.
100% does.
Yeah.
Because it's all about that customer experience at the end of the day, innit?
Yeah.
And when there's so many brands out there, whatever, you need to kind of be at almost like a base level that you don't drop beneath, but you also need to use those kind of like finer details to make your brand stand out. So for example, with your brand, let's say the tags could be made in Zimbabwe or something like that with a certain material that's bespoke to Zimbabwe. Yeah. That's something that makes the customer feel like, yo, this brand is speaking to me and it speaks for me and it cares about me. Yeah, so those fine details are really important. What I was going to say is, I think this is a good segue, because the point you made about the styling thing, I'm really happy you said that. And I think it speaks to your transparency, because some people may be too prideful to admit certain things like that. But I didn't know that. So I know there's a lot of people that were at a point where they just thought every single rapper, every single person you see on magazines, they wear their own clothes, and that people don't really understand these things.
No.
And speaking of your transparency, to me, that is epitomized by your YouTube channel, because you almost started documenting from the jump. And even speaking of the YouTube channel, we'll go into it in more depth, but I've seen situations where you've spoken, you've gone through something, and then you've made a video about that, and then you've made another video saying, oh, this is what I learned from it and stuff like that. And we don't often get to see things like that from designers. So thank you for being so transparent. And my question is, when did YouTube come into the picture then, and why?
Okay. COVID. I feel like a lot of people started YouTube because we were in COVID. So I've always loved YouTube, I can't lie. Like I spent hours and hours on there. And I always wanted to start a YouTube channel without knowing that I wanted to start a YouTube channel. As soon as I got a laptop with a webcam, I would like sit there recording myself, just talking. I don't even know what I would have been talking about. Like this is from when I was like young. Even we had like, you know, them camcorders as well.
Oh, so you connected it to the laptop?
Oh yeah. Like I was that person. So like I'd sit there in my study room at home and I'll have it there and I'll just record myself talking. I don't know what I would be talking about, and then I would export it and edit it on Windows Movie Maker.
Wow.
Like it was that long ago.
Back.
Yeah. And obviously then like I didn't really know like what I was really doing this for. It was for my own entertainment. Like I'll watch it back and I'm like, yeah. I even made a movie, like me, my cousin and my niece. She was about 6. She's 19 now. And we made a film, and oh gosh, nothing was, anyway.
Have you still got it?
I even burnt it onto a CD. Like I am that, and I went even further. Like I printed out like a DVD case for it with like snippets from the movie that I'd grabbed, and I put a name, and it had like the whole like what it's about,
You put a
and
brand.
the age restriction and all of that stuff. Like I'm that person. And this is what, how many years ago? Like 15 years ago?
Wow.
Is it? What's 19 take 6?
1926, yeah.
13 years ago?
I don't know
Yeah.
why I looked at the chart. Like I didn't do math.
So I've always kind of sort of been that person, like, without realizing. So then I would watch YouTube, watched a lot of YouTube. And I think in the back of my head, I knew that somehow, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Just didn't know what it was going to be about. I thought maybe I'll document like family life or whatever. But that's like getting people involved. They might not want to be involved.
Yeah.
And then it was when I was looking to start my business, I would go on YouTube and watch videos about, you know, starting a fashion brand, starting a business. And then I saw that there was a lack in, like you said it earlier, UK business channels. There's a big lack in that. And then I thought, okay, put that to the back of my mind somewhere. And then obviously I went through the process of like starting my business, learning different things, and I feel like I got to a point where I felt like I had knowledge to share, and that's how I started the channel. So I sat down and I was like, I made a bold statement. I was like, I want to make X amount by the time I'm 30. I'm 30 next year.
You never know what can happen in the year though.
Do you know what? Yeah, of course. And do you know what? Starting my YouTube channel was such a blessing. When I think about it, it almost makes me want to cry, because like it's like when you have a business and that's what you're doing, like full time, and the reason why I was doing it full time, so the last job I had, I worked for a startup, and I loved working there. Like I had a really nice boss, and it was a really small company. There was 4 of us. And it was like hair care products. And I learned a lot when it comes to the business side of things, like how to run a business, what to do, what not to do, how to answer to emails, customer service. She was really big on customer service. And like even now when I'm replying to customers, I still have that in the back of my mind, because she's like, the tone of the email, like it means a lot. And her thing was, she really was big on like the customers always right, almost. So she would rather lose a product than lose a customer. Do you know what I mean? So like I really took that on board. And it was one time ages ago, we sold a tracksuit at a pop-up. And the guy messaged me, he was like, the zip's fallen off. And I was like, oh no. And like, I didn't bother, like, I didn't need proof or anything. I was just like, please forward your account details. We will refund the cost you paid for the tracksuit, and you can keep the tracksuit. Like, it's fine. And he still, like, follows the brand, like, is, like, watching what we're doing and stuff. Like, and that's because I kept that, do you know what I mean? I feel like once you ask for like proof and that, it's like, it gets tricky. So yeah, after so basically I needed to do a pop-up in Paris for a collection that we had done, and I'd used all of my holiday days. So I told my boss at the time, I was like, okay, basically, like, I've got a clothing brand. She didn't even know. I was like, I've got a clothing brand, and I'm gonna have this pop-up in Paris. I need to go. And she was just like, Tadii, I could sit here and I could be like, give you those days, because it was like a week, and you could come back and work for me. I could do that. But she was like, but in business, you can't have that safety net. Otherwise, it's not gonna push you to like work, because like you always have something to fall back on. So she was just like, so I'm gonna tell you to go to Paris and basically not come back to the job. She didn't. I wouldn't say she fired me, because at the end of the day, it was my choice. Yeah. So that's how I left that job. And she was just like, whenever I have like shifts or like need extra help, I'll call on you. And she actually did. Like, she would call on me to do like a couple like shifts when she's had like big sales or whatever, to come and pack some orders and stuff. But she basically like pushed me to quit, basically. And I went to Paris, had my pop-up, and then COVID.
Oh, so the YouTube channel wasn't even a thing at this point?
No.
Because remember when I first asked you, you were saying that sometimes thinking about your YouTube channel makes you want to cry.
Yeah, so I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Then COVID. Okay. Cool. And so I'm jobless, trying to run my business, and we're in a pandemic, and I decided to start my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel grew like quite, like, I wouldn't say like it grew really, really well, but it grew quite well.
Yeah.
Because before I started my YouTube channel, I studied a lot of YouTube channels and like how to grow on YouTube and all of that kind of stuff. So with YouTube, it then brought in an income. So like I had a safety net without realizing that I had a new safety net. And it meant that I was now able to continue running my business even when it wasn't really making money. Like, one thing about fashion is that it would take a long time for you to actually start reaping the rewards because of the amount of money you have to like sort of put into it. 100%. Even if you look at fashion houses, like if you've watched the Alexander McQueen documentary, you will see that he never really made money for a really long time. If you watch some of the documentaries from The Education, like his videos, most of them are like, this company did not make money for 10 years until they started making money.
Even like Martine Rose, for example, as talented as she is, she only really made money when she started working for Demna at Balenciaga. And then the spotlight that put on her is when people really started buying Martine Rose. And she was grinding for, I think, 10 to 15 years.
Exactly. And that's why YouTube for me was like a blessing, because it was like, it allowed me to have like an income but still being able to run my fashion business. And the two go hand in hand. Like, I can't have a YouTube channel without my fashion brand. And
so now you're locked in.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I have to continue. So it's like, so I got to the point where I was like, okay, Tadii, if you don't start making money by the time you turn 27, you're going to have to get a job. I was real with myself. And the reason why it makes me sad is because it's like, I used to have like these sit down conversations with people and they'll be like telling me like, Tadii, it's a lot of cost. He used to call it cost of opportunity. Like, you studied engineering, how much money have you lost by not getting a job in engineering? Do you know what I mean? So that was always ringing in the back of my mind. So if I hadn't started YouTube, I might have had to quit the whole fashion thing, and like got a job. And you know, running a fashion brand and having a job it's not going to be easy, and one would have lacked, and whether it's the job or the fashion brand. And then I knew whatever job I get, I was not going to be happy because it's not really where I want to be.
Yeah.
But then with YouTube, I really enjoy doing YouTube.
I can tell.
So
And you're really good at it.
thank you.
Really personal in front of the camera.
So yeah, that's why it makes me like really emotional, because it's like if I didn't make that decision,
You might not be here.
my life will be it probably would have been so different to the way it looks now. Yeah.
You know, that's so nice to hear that your YouTube channel means as much to you as it means to other people, because I've seen you've got about nearly 18k subscribers at the moment. So that's 18,000 people. Let's say 15k of them have their own brand. Like, you are one of the reasons that they're still going. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you've documented your journey in real time. They've seen where you started and they've seen how you've progressed, and it's making them say, if Tadii can do it, I can do it too. So I love that. It's as cathartic for you as it is for your audience as well. And speaking of the YouTube channel in particular, there's a couple videos that really stuck with me. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the first ones that really stuck with me was the one you made about being a black woman in fashion. And I love that video.
Thanks.
I love that video. Obviously, I'm a black man. I've got black sisters. I love black women, yeah. And throughout this journey and through the conversations that we've had, there seems to be like a recurring theme of black women saying that there's not that much representation within fashion. Like, a really good example is we had an interview with a lady called Dolores, fantastic designer, incredible designer. We got an episode that would be out by now, yeah. And prior to us recording, we were talking off camera, and she was basically saying why she got into fashion and whatnot. And she asked me a question, and she was basically like when I wanted to get into fashion, I couldn't see anyone like me within what I wanted to do within fashion. So she was like to me, Jerome, think back to when you was younger. Who was the black female face that you saw within fashion? Who do you think?
I can't actually think of one.
Who?
I can't think of one.
Oh, you can't think of one?
No.
Do you know why you can't think of one? Because you're thinking about design. The only face that I thought of and the only person I thought of that came to my head straight away was Naomi Campbell.
Yeah.
But obviously she's a model.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to your YouTube channel, there must be so many young black women that are looking at Tadii like, wow, if Tadii can do it, we can do it too. So one, I wanted to big up you on that.
Thank you.
But I also wanted to ask, like, can you kind of like elaborate on what your experience as being a black woman within fashion has been like, and how you've kind of overcome certain hurdles?
Do you know what? Like, I've never looked at myself as a black woman in fashion, funnily enough, until I made that video. And when I made that video, it's Black History Month. So I wanted to create a video with that sort of theme.
Yeah.
And then when I started looking into it, I was like, oh, wow, like there isn't many black women in fashion. Like, you see a lot, you see quite a few black men, especially now, like Virgil. He was a black man in fashion, and then Pharrell was taking over Louis Vuitton, another
Telfar,
black man. Yeah, like there's
Tadii G, Raymond.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
I was inspired a lot by his collection as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there wasn't really many black women in fashion, but I don't really see that as like a hindrance at all. But I feel like I'm just that sort of person. Like, I don't like feeling sorry for myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like I'm just gonna get on with it. Do you know what I mean? So I've never been like, okay, these are my struggles as a black woman in fashion. Like, not really. It's just I just try and just get on with it. But it's a thing. Like, there aren't many black women in fashion. Like, we can't ignore it. But hopefully with the YouTube channel and seeing me, I guess, it will show, you know, black girls, black women, that there are black women in fashion and you can get into it, sort of thing. I was recently at Google and we were talking about YouTube and fashion and stuff, because obviously my YouTube channel is based on fashion. And afterwards we had like a networking session, and like the black girls came up to me and they were like, it was really important to have somebody that looked like us on the stage talking about YouTube, because it makes us think, okay, we can do it too. And I don't ever think that, like, okay, granted, like, my channel is to inspire people to start clothing brands and like try and take them through it and help them with certain stuff, like but that's like for everyone.
Yeah, yep.
Like I never really sat down and thought like, oh wait, there's another side to this where you're actually inspiring people that look like you. I grew up in Kent. No one's ever looked like me. So I've kind of just gotten on with it and never really, I've noticed but not noticed. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what I loved about the video, because obviously you gave some small anecdotes as to, you was like, it's almost, it seemed so organic, like whilst you were talking, it's like things just came up. Like when you mentioned the story about when you was young in primary school and the teacher said you had to shave your hair, and the teacher was like, oh, girls go to the toilet, you got up to go, and she was like, no, I said girls type thing, innit?
Yeah.
So, and again, coming back to your transparency, I love hearing things like that, because one, seeing is believing. So just seeing you is telling people, young black women, that they can also have a career in fashion, but also seeing the transparency shows that you can almost be unapologetically yourself within fashion as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing where when you're from particular types of backgrounds, you may feel like if you want to get into certain types of fashion, for example, luxury fashion, which has always been elitist and exclusive, you may have to almost perform the whole time whilst you're there.
Yeah.
Having a channel like yours where you're unapologetically yourself, is having such a huge impact to not only young black women, everyone, and a young black man like myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also wanted to kind of caveat what you were saying as well, and just highlight a lot of the other black women within fashion, British fashion anyway. You've got Leomi Anderson that, is a model, but then now she's got her own brand. You've got the women's wear girls, the three of them who are doing great things.
Yeah.
Loud Brand, Jedediah, Marianne, Farai London, Kai Collective, just loads of different brands.
I feel like, and they're killing it as well.
You get it?
They're doing so well. So it's just like, we're there. We're getting there.
Yeah, no, real, man. And we don't know what the landscape is going to look like in the next 10 years, for example.
It's true.
You get what I'm saying? So we're going to see London Fashion Weeks where there's more than just Bianca Saunders and Martine Rose and Grace Osborne. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a whole list of black women that are, at that pinnacle. Do you know what I mean? So I'm very, 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 very excited for the future. And thank you for making that video, by the way. Yeah. But speaking more about the channel, that obviously led to you being on the YouTube Black Creators thing, right? Yeah. So what actually is that, and how did it come about, and what sort of impact do you feel like that has had on your brand? Not necessarily the clothing, but like your personal brand almost.
So it was just like one of the things that pops up in your emails, and like I sent in my application and forgot about it, and then a few months later, I got a congratulations email, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I looked into it a bit more, started watching previous classes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is big. And like, that's kind of sort of, it gave me confidence. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing is like good. It helps people. But now like YouTube's recognized it, like, wow. So it's basically a platform that it helps young, well, not necessarily young, to be honest, black creators grow on the platform, and that's basically what it is.
No, sick for getting on that, man. I'm not gonna lie. And do you know, as we're having this conversation, because there's so many things to talk about, Tadii, I feel like we've spoken less about your actual brand. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of want to speak more about that. Like, what does your brand represent? Because obviously, as I said in that video that I watched, it was to be fair, you told me the target audience, which is your cousin, the more luxury consumer. But like, what's your brand purpose?
My brand purpose. Okay. So coming to that took years, like, because it was like, oh, what are we really doing here? So my brand purpose is, how do I put this into like a sentence? So heritage, that's in the name and in some of the concepts you see with the designs. Then power. So my thing is, and you will see it reflected in my YouTube channel, I believe that there's so many seats at the table. I've never been into like the whole competition thing. Like, I don't feel like it exists. There's space for everyone. So that's within my brand as well, power. The ability to give like power to all. That's why I started my YouTube channel as well. because there are many seats at the table, and that's about it. Really. And then luxury, I guess, because like I wanted to show people that, okay, even though like I am young and I am black, I can still tap into the luxury market as well, and so can you. Don't sell yourself short. Somebody I used to talk to about my brand used to be like, oh, Tadii, why do you want to sell your t-shirts for that much? Don't you think you could sell them for like 20 quid and make like loads of sales and do it that way? And I'm just like, but why would I do that?
Yeah,
Like,
great question.
I put a lot of work into my brand. Selling your t-shirts for 20 quid doesn't mean that you're going to get like loads and loads of sales. And in doing that, you might not actually make any money doing it that way as well. So I knew which market I wanted to tap into. I looked at the price points of people within that market, and that's where I placed myself. Yeah, it might be harder to get sales and whatnot, but eventually I'll get there. And I wanted to kind of sort of build like a cult following for the brand, and just have people that really, really love the brand buying into the brand. And then also is the vibe of the brand as a whole. Like SvoSva brings people together.
I've seen that through all the pop-ups you've done.
Yeah. So in that, like, it creates kind of sort of like, I don't know, like a good vibe. We like to dance, we like to listen to music, we like South African house music and I'm a piano. Like that's us. And whenever we do like events and stuff, like it's a vibe. It brings people together. People like talk to me, they catch the vibe, they talk to my brother. My mum's usually there as well, they love her. So I feel like that's the overall ethos. So it's like tapping into heritage, showing that there's lots of seats at the table, luxury market, and then also just bringing everyone together to have a good time.
You know, Tadii, I love that, because everything you said, I can see that through different things, particularly the empowering aspect of it. Like what I found so interesting is in that juxtaposition collection was like the graphics. Like, I don't know, man, like just seeing, I can't remember the name of this shirt, man, but oh no, it wasn't the Costa shirt or something like that, but there was like a guy with dreadlocks on it.
Yeah, that isn't Costa.
Oh, okay, sorry, I pronounced it wrong. But yeah, like when I see that, it's like just seeing a black man that looks like that on a t-shirt. I don't know, it just has an impact on you. Like he seems powerful, he seems strong, but he doesn't seem it doesn't seem like the tropes that they put on black men, for example, as hyper masculine and aggressive. He just seems like him, but in the way you depicted him through the design, like I felt that. So I love hearing about your brand purpose and your mission, because I'm seeing it through everything you do. The question I wanted to ask is that during your response, you mentioned that you wanted to create like a cult following type thing. Yeah. One, how important is community for a brand? And two, how do you feel like your YouTube has helped you build that? And the reason I ask that is because obviously your YouTube is about your brand. It's Tadii, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So people might necessarily buy into Tadii, but they may not necessarily not buy into the brand, if that makes sense. So yeah, how have you seen that the YouTube has brought customers in that sense and brought people into this community? And yeah, why is community so important?
I feel like community is really important because there's so many brands out there. I feel like that's the main reason. Why would someone buy from your brand and not another brand? That's when the community aspect comes in. And building that community is what allows customers to then buy into your brand because they want to be a part of that community. But in terms of like my YouTube channel and my brand, they don't cross over.
Okay.
No. They might, because somebody might buy something from my brand just because they like me. But they don't really cross over because on my YouTube channel it's very informational. Yep. I barely really share like my actual brand and like what I actually sell, because I didn't want it to be like salesy. Like I didn't create my YouTube channel to sell my brand really. So they're very different. And I guess initially I would have liked them to have like a bit more of a crossover, because obviously that would have been beneficial. But when I realised that it's not really going to happen, I do treat them as two very separate businesses. Like YouTube and Tadii G is a brand in itself, and then SvoSva is its own brand. So it is like having two jobs, and balancing that can be very difficult.
I love when I'm having conversations and it's like the things the guest is saying helps, like brings in my next question, because I wanted to ask, how do you balance both? Because it's interesting about how you spoke about the YouTube in the sense that it brought in revenue, but it's not a job. But then when you're doing it that consistently, and there's people that do YouTube and solely YouTube full time, it basically is a job.
It is a job.
Yeah. So how do you balance the two?
Oh gosh, I struggle. I do struggle, and I feel like one always lacks. Like right now, a lot of my focus is on YouTube with the YouTube Black Voices one. I have classes every week. I have meetings. I have like sponsored content as well, which is not linked to the Black Voices thing, but with YouTube in general, I have sponsored content to post. So at the moment, that really consumes my time. But then when I have a new collection coming out, then YouTube starts to lack. And I do have a new collection coming out, so slowly, like, I'm probably gonna make that shift where it's like I'm focusing more on my clothing brand. But me myself, I need to work out a way where I can do both. But it's not even like a time thing. It's not that at all. It's a mind thing.
When you say that, what do you mean? So
it's like, I feel like one particular part of my brain is turned on for YouTube, and then one part of my brain is turned on for SvoSva, and it's like I can't put both on at the same time. So like I don't see it as a time thing. It's like literally my mind will explode if I'm trying to do both.
Overload.
Yeah, like I just can't. It will explode if I try and do both at the same time. So I need to work out a way where I can do both at the same time, because it's like my mind goes into overdrive. Like, because I'll always be thinking. So like with YouTube, I'm always thinking, okay, what videos am I going to create? I need to plan the videos. I need to film the videos. And I'm always thinking, okay, what videos? Then with my brand, it's like, what's trending? What fabrics do I want to use this time around?
Completely different.
What styles, what silhouettes? They're so different. And it's like trying to think of both at the same time. And I do a lot of thinking at night. So I don't sleep. Yeah. So it's like, if I'm now thinking of two things at the same time, I'm going to be staying up until like 4 instead of 2. Do you know what I mean? So,
and you still got to wake up early to obviously do the stuff you need to do.
Exactly.
And you know what, Tadii, it's, again, I'm grateful for you saying this, because I think it's important for young entrepreneurs within fashion to understand that they're not superhuman. Do you know what I'm saying? So acknowledging the fact that you can't have both of those lights switched on at the same time. And then, as you said, trying to think of ways that you can kind of work around that. Obviously, it's not as simple for people to kind of get an extra teammate to help them out or something like that. But maybe there's an app, do you know what I'm saying, that could help manage time or whatever. Or there's doing things outside of both the YouTube and the brand so that you're in a better headspace so that you can manage both, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's important to be self-aware in the way you are. The question I was going to ask is, obviously we've spoken about the YouTube and whatnot, and that's a great way to build one's personal brand within fashion, which I think is so important, because let's say you want to, not necessarily you outgrow your brand, but let's say you want to become creative director somewhere or something like that. Like, chances are, with the way the world's going anyway, you're going to need to have a profile at least, you know what I'm saying? So other than like YouTube channels, because as you said, it's a lot, what ways can like up and coming designers and stuff build their personal brands?
Unfortunately, I do feel like it's just on social media, to be honest. Like, look at Molly May. Would she be creative director if she wasn't on social media? Like, let's be real. And it seemed, if you look at, let's look at like LV, for example. Pharrell.
Yeah.
He's the new creative director of LV, but he's somebody that's like out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like people want to see who you are in order for you to kind of sort of like, I don't know, say if you wanted to be a creative director of something, you kind of sort of have to be like out there. Yeah, of course, like your fashion background will definitely matter, but how much does it matter at this point? I feel like it's more like your creativity as well.
That's a really
like
good point.
I don't feel like, sometimes I don't feel like it's like the talent that you have in fashion. I almost feel like it's how creative and how wild you can be almost. Yeah, that's what I would take on that. I feel like it's really important to build your personal brand. And I didn't even realise that that's what I was doing until somebody told me that that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel like they said to me that your YouTube content is actually, what do they call it? They're like, it's giving your brand value.
Yes, like brand equity type.
Yeah. Which is not monetary. It's like...
It's intangible.
Yeah. So it's like somebody could come in and literally just want to invest in your brand because of you and the work that they've seen. There's like my journey is documented for like 2 years so far, and somebody can come on my YouTube channel and watch videos from 2020 and see the journey until 2023 and decide, do you know what, I like this girl. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's so important. So I do suggest that anyone starting a brand to do something on social media and put your face out there. It's scary, but just do it. Like the opportunities that can come from that, like you wouldn't even imagine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, that's I figured you would say something like that, and there's certain things that really stuck out to me, because one of the sort of essence I took from what you were saying is that, look, like, okay, you're talented XYZ, but you're still kind of early on in your journey and whatnot. So it's not like the talent can just speak for itself. Like, for example, like not everyone's Ray Kawakubo or Rick Owens where they become known for like particular silhouettes and whatnot. People are still early on in their journey, so stop thinking that your brand / like your designs are enough.
No,
like,
they're not.
You need like unfortunately, you need to put, especially with today's day and age where we have social media, so people are actually expecting to see things. You need to be really cognizant of that and kind of use your own personality, leverage your own personality, and leverage your story, which for me is the most important thing. To kind of propel the brand as well. So they kind of work hand in hand.
Yeah, and you know what it is with that? I feel like a lot of the time with the success stories that you see on social media, you don't see
what came
the
before.
person.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you don't see the person, especially with those with brands that do tend to go like viral and grow right in front of your eyes. Those sorts of brands, you may know who the person is, but you don't really like know them. You don't know their background and stuff. And when I was like starting my brand, you mentioned women's wear.
Yeah. They had a YouTube channel.
And they had a YouTube channel. Yeah. And I was so annoyed that they like stopped posting. I was just like, I want to see this. But then with them, they kind of grew their brand without you really seeing the people.
Yeah.
And why I mention that is because like I then feel like people that want to start their brand feel like they can do it that way. But I almost feel like not everyone can do it that way. Like some people, obviously there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. But there are some people that are able to still grow their brand without putting themselves like out there. But I feel like the majority should put themselves out there in order to grow their brand, because again it comes back to, why would I buy from you when I can buy from somebody else? It just adds that extra layer of why they should buy from this particular person.
100%. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I love getting guests to say things like that, because when we reach out to you to get you on the podcast, please, it's not just for us obviously, like, the views of the subscribers and that, but it's for you lot as well to share your story. Do you know what I mean? Rash, I lie, like, we need man to share their story, because this is, for me, every conversation we have is like a line in the sand where 10 years time, people are going to not only see your channel, but they're going to come back and see this and be like, oh my God, this is where Tadii was at this point. This is where Tadii went through. And also for yourself, because as you said, you're always speaking to yourself on the camera, but you haven't necessarily done an interview like this.
Yeah.
This is, for me, like a checkpoint for you as well. So remember you made the point about wanting to reach a certain point by the age of 30, but you're 30 next year. Let's say you reach that point, God willing, by 32 or something like that. You're going to come back and watch this interview and maybe say to yourself, wow, like I didn't even think I'll do it. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, content, really important. But I'm going to start rounding off the conversation now.
Cool.
It's been a fantastic conversation. I feel like we could have spoken about a lot more, 100%. But I've got 2 last questions. The first one is like, what does the future of your brand look like?
So I mentioned that, you know, like we have the classic silhouettes, so like the hoodies with the logo and like the tracksuits, but I want to like move away from that, and I want people to look at my brand and think, wow, she's really put an effort into the things that she's created. Like it's not just a piece, like there's so many like components that have gone into all the different pieces, and it all kind of sort of like just fits together. I want people to look at my brand and see it as like a finished product. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So that's kind of sort of where I see the brand. And then obviously I still want to continue with like the whole like building a culture around the brand, so like doing things like events and stuff. One thing with my brand, like I was like, I feel like here in the UK there's not much of a fashion community sort of thing, where I saw it recently. We're slowly beginning to tap into it a little bit, but like my thing was, I saw like you mentioned him, Kirby, with his Pierre Moss shows, and you will see like the people that go there are like black celebrities and maybe like some influencers and those sorts of people, and it's kind of like a community of people within that industry, like artists and models and people like that. And I was like, in the UK, do we have that? And when I started my brand, I was like, I want people to come to a SvoSva show and it be that community of people. Because I don't know, I say it to people, like I feel like here in the UK we're only just beginning to build our Black British community, whereas in America they've had their
generation.
They have that community, that unionship. Here I feel like we're just beginning, and we're seeing it more and more. Like there are things for us to go to, sort of things that is outside of like enjoyment, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's what I wanted to do with SvoSva, like curate that sort of culture where people are like, okay, once a year there's a SvoSva show where it's going to bring together people within the industry, and you get to meet people, you get to watch a great show, and that sort of thing. I saw it with Yaboa. He recently had a show, and I was just like, wow, that's great. And I feel like we need more of things like that. And
God willing, you'll get there.
I hope so. That's why I see SvoSva.
I see it there too, man. And speaking of the Yaboa show, it literally felt like what you were saying, see Tiny Temper there.
Do you know, that's literally exactly what I'm saying we need more of here in the UK.
And we will. Big up Yaboa, man. Big up Yaboa. And watch the episode we did of him as well. Shameless plug. But lastly, Tadii, first of all, thank you. It's been an incredible conversation. So on your channel for the whole 2 years, you've been giving gems, keys, non-stop. Every video there's something in. Even as I'm talking, I'm forgetting that there was something I want to talk about. Rash, how long have we been recording? Hour 20. Damn, how did I know that? My body clock, I'm used to it now. Cool. Forget the last question.
Okay.
There was a situation that I wanted to speak about with you.
Sure.
You have 2 videos where you spoke about losing the 20k on your collection. I think that's a story that people need to hear. So what happened there, and like how did you overcome that?
Okay, so I was early-ish on in my journey into like more, what do we call it? Oh my gosh, I forgot the name.
Cut and sew,
that's the one. Cut and sew. I was at the beginning stages of like my cut and sew journey, and I was obviously like looking for manufacturers, and I found a manufacturer, they actually approached me via Instagram, which should have been my first thing.
Red flag.
But anyway.
We live and we learn.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, we went through like a lot of sample rounds, and until we like got the product to look exactly how I wanted it to look like, and I was happy. And what's so annoying is that I still have these samples. That's what I still wear.
Wow.
But the bulk order, that's unwearable. So like their samples were that good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was happy with the samples. They took PayPal, which is good. At least my money was still going to be somewhat protected. And I went ahead and I placed the bulk order, and it was just tracksuits and a jumpsuit. And I really like that jumpsuit design. I still haven't like bought myself to recreate it just because of that experience. But anyway, so I spent, I can't remember the exact figure that I spent on that collection, but it was in the thousands, but the smaller thousands. So you make 2 payments. So the first payment I paid it using PayPal, and then the second payment is when you receive the goods. Or no, not when you receive the goods, just before the goods are shipped. Cool. So, and then even then, me and my brother were so excited. We had already started discussing what we were going to make next. So we're looking to make like some puffer jackets. So that was already like in the pipeline. We had made the first payment for that as well. And working with this guy was good. He had good communication. We had video calls. Like it was all quite smooth sailing until the products came. And the first few products we looked at, like the tracksuits, they were like decent. The fabric was good. It's just the first hiccup that I saw was the waist line just looked a lot smaller than it needed to be. So that was confusing. And I messaged the guy and I was just like, the sizing is a little bit off. And he was like, we have a blah, blah, blah margin of error or whatever when we produce goods. And I was just like, okay, I'm still quite early. Oh, I don't know. Still to do that. No, it should have been normal, to be honest. I don't think that's normal. But I was still quite early on, so I was just like, okay. You know when people use certain types of terminology, you're just like, okay, cool. But the main issue with those tracksuits was the peeling logo. The peeling vinyl that we had on the tracksuits. So he had said, basically, you can fix the tracksuits by removing the vinyl and redoing it. It was just like such a long back and forth with him. And then we noticed that one of the tracksuits had like, it literally had wiring sticking out of it.
What?
And my brother was so happy to try on that tracksuit, and it like ripped his skin. Yeah. And I remember messaging him like, one of your tracksuits has cut my brother. And he was like, ha ha ha, what? Is there a knife in there? Like he started mocking me. It was a horrible time. He started mocking me. And it was around the time that we went to Paris for the pop-up. So these tracksuits were for the Paris pop-up. And we drove, so we took like the stock in the car. Didn't take everything because it was quite a lot of stock. So now we're in our Airbnb and we're looking through some of the stock, and we had like a pile of sellable and non-sellable stuff, and a pile of non-sellable just kept on getting higher, and it was all to do with the print just peeling off. Like I can't sell a tracksuit with a peeling print. The fabric was fine. The fit was okay. I wasn't happy with the waistline, but I could get over that. I could adjust my sizing for it to like make sense. But the peeling vinyl, cool. And this was maybe like £15,000 worth of stock, because obviously like you buy it at your cost price, and then you have it at your...
Get your markup.
Your markup, yeah. So when I then got back to the UK, there was this print company that I've used in Dartford for years. And I took the tracksuits to him and I was like, what can you do about this? because they have like products where you can remove the vinyl and redo it. So he was like, yeah, no problem. Like, we can sort that out for you. So I was like, okay, cool. And I gave him all my tracksuits, and I was like, sort it out. It took him 3 weeks. And I thought, okay, at least I'm going to have tracksuits that I can sell. And then get the tracksuits back. And the solution that he had used to remove the first vinyl had then caused like a massive stain, like circular stain. On every single tracksuit. So now everything is unsellable. And I fought him. I was like, look at this stain. And I kid you not, he said the tracksuits came like that. He said the tracksuits came like that. I was just like, you know what? Cool. That's that stock. Just done, finished, gone. I've accepted it, and it is what it is. I've learnt my lesson. The main lesson I learnt was not to, you know, go for a manufacturer that messages you on Instagram for starters, and also to avoid that particular country in terms of manufacturing. And to be fair, I was warned. I'm in loads of Facebook groups for clothing brands, and a lot of them are like, avoid this country. I didn't listen. So that's basically like how I lost all of that stock and, you know, the money that I'd put into it. But I did manage to get a little bit of money back because I did pay using PayPal. And it's funny, the guy was mocking me again because he was like, I can see the complaint that you've put into PayPal. Then he was like, ha ha ha, you're going to have to send it to me to my country. I'm not going to say the country because, you know, people might get offended. But he was like, you're going to have to send it to me back to my country. It's far, this country is. And it probably would have costed thousands. However, they don't have PayPal in that country. So they have to register their PayPal to a UK address. So actually, technically, I just had to send it back to the UK address. And, you know, what happens if you send something and it doesn't arrive? It gets sent straight back to you. So those tracksuits are sitting in my loft. One day I'll do something with them. I don't know. I'm never going to sell them because they're not in a sellable condition. But I don't know.
Maybe
I'll
you could upcycle them in something.
Maybe.
Like that. 'Cause that's a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that piece will be very, very meaningful. But what a story, man. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm happy I remember to ask. Big up me, man. There's things you got to watch out for, man, when it comes to these manufacturers.
They are. One key thing I always tell people, make sure like you protect your money when you're paying. Obviously, I lost. So basically, the second payment, I sent it bank transfer. So that's gone. I called the bank.
And they said, nope.
They were like, that's between you and the merchant or whatever. So that money went. I accepted that and moved on. But the PayPal one I got, oh my gosh. When I think back, the stress that I was going through. And I was in Ireland at the time visiting my my brother. And sometimes, like, in these situations, like, you feel so alone because, like, you feel like it's only you that's dealing with this right now. So I just remember just being so stressed, going back and forth with PayPal. And at first, PayPal actually concluded it in favour of the seller.
Wow.
And basically it was like, they said something like, you never sent the goods back. And then I had to send them proof that I did. And then when I called them up, they were like, I don't know why they did that. And that's when my money got refunded to me straight away. So I always tell people, like, protect your money, whether that's using PayPal or escrow, something, a third party, until you trust your manufacturer. But even at that, can you really trust them? I don't know. My manufacturer that I use right now, I pay after the stuff comes.
Yeah, that's the deal you got.
So I'm lucky in that sense, but that's rare. It's really rare to get a manufacturer like that. So I always also tell people to try and keep it in the UK. Even though I still got, you know, buy a UK printer, at least if it's in the UK, there's a little bit more you can do. Whether that's reporting them to trade, what is it called? Trading standards or whatever. There's there's still
There's more
something.
protection.
Yeah.
That's crazy that I've had so many convos, and that's the first time I've heard about certain things. But yeah, those are major keys. So thank you for saying that again, Tadii. But yeah, so this brings me on to my last question that we ask all of our guests. As I was saying, through your YouTube channel, you drop gems, keys every single video. But what are like the main pieces of advice you would give to the next generation of, well, up and coming designers within the UK, or people that want to get into fashion in general, to be honest?
I would say start. People are just always like hanging around, like they have this idea but they don't start it. So the first thing I would say is like start. I would also, this one's really hard because it's like two things that you have to weigh up. So it's like, don't try and be like overly like perfect, like overly too much of a perfectionist when it comes to your brand, but then at the same time don't rush. So it's finding that balance, because I feel like I could have not been in certain situations if I hadn't rushed. I wanted those tracksuits because I had a pop-up in Paris, do you know what I mean? But maybe if I had taken a moment to step back and thought, okay, maybe telling him that, oh, you need this in 2 weeks, maybe that's why the print didn't stick or whatever. So don't rush, but then don't overanalyze what you're doing, where it's like, oh, maybe that's not good enough, because it probably is good enough. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like having that balance in between the two. Protect your money always, and take time to study something in fashion, whether that's sewing, pattern cutting, something. You need to have some knowledge of something in fashion, just if anything, just for yourself. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Tadii, been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tadii. Sorry, what a conversation. Bruv. Tadii, I learned so much. Thank you so much, yeah. Thank you so much. Lastly, we just basically ask you to look into the camera and basically say where can they find you, so your Instagram,
Oh my gosh.
YouTube channel.
Okay. Well, you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Tadii G. So I'll post basically my journey into growing my own business, along with like tips, tricks, gems, and that sort of stuff. So that's Tadii G, Tadii space G. And then on Instagram, it's just Tadii _G. I just post myself on there, my life. So yeah.
And the brand.
Oh yeah, and the brand. Oh my gosh. And my brand is SvoSva. That's SvoSva. We have a new collection coming out, hopefully on the 19th of April, which is my birthday. So working towards that. And yeah, some nice summery pieces. Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that, by the way.
Thank you.
But yes, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You know to find us, WMTV_LDN on Instagram. TikTok, we got TikTok as well. I've been posting a couple keys on that, so make sure you follow us on TikTok. That's a TikTok, which is the same thing, WMTV_LDN. But yeah, as I always say, keep it locked. Thank you for watching another episode of Where's My Podcast. If you ever want to take in future episodes on the go, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Whilst you're there, please leave us a 5-star review. It would really help. And also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, WMTV_LDN, to keep up to date with the latest goings on in UK fashion. Keep it locked.